Welcome to the Claim Your Day podcast. Here, it's all about taking full advantage of the time we have today and becoming intentional with our actions so we each can have the impact we want. If you want to stop drifting through life and start directing your life, and you're open to a short podcast from someone who's working at the exact same thing, then welcome. You're in the right place, my friend. Hi, I'm your host, Nick Mazey. To respect your time and so you can claim your day, let's dive right in. Well, hello, my friend, and welcome. Welcome to episode 7, Claim Your Day. Hey, have you ever felt like you're working so hard and just not making the progress that you want? Like almost like you're not getting anywhere. Kind of like you're spinning your wheels, even though you're putting in a whole lot of effort and getting things done. Well, it's easy to get sidetracked, especially in today's busy world. And that's so today what we're talking about is being able to stay on track. And the only way we really can stay on track is if we focus on those priorities, because you won't make any progress without prioritizing what truly matters, what's most important to you. Because if you're just putting in a whole lot of effort without staying on track with the exact direction that you want to go for your life, then there's no way that you can really make that progress. See, priorities give you direction. They help you to focus your energy, especially when you're putting forth all that energy. You got to make sure it's going in the right direction, and that those priorities help you to focus that energy so it will be making progress to go in the direction that you want. Your priorities are essential. They're essential if you want to live intentionally and achieve your goals. See, without priorities, you really don't know where you're going. Especially, I said, if you feel like you're spinning your wheels, putting in all this effort and not making progress in the direction that you want, well, having those priorities, those focused priorities, it's going to help you to see that as you're going so that you can make the adjustments that you need to make. See, without the tools to maintain those priorities, it's going to be easy to get sidetracked, and I'd say it's about going to be inevitable. You will get sidetracked. There's an old Zig Ziglar quote that I love, and it's if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. I think it just applies to working so hard and pushing in your life and in your days without those clear priorities. Because, well, you're not aiming at your priorities, so you're not going to hit your priorities. And if that's the case, then you're going to get sidetracked because you don't know where you got to be going. So before we can really focus on our priorities and make progress in those areas, we got to identify them. We got to identify those top priorities, for your life. I'm not here going to tell you what they should be, but it's just like the values, to get your priorities. It's going to be helpful to focus on those true values that you have. Think about what's most important to you, what's most important for your life, what you want, your values. You take it a little bit of time, reflect on those, think about those things. And especially during the being in a busy life, it's really easy to get caught up in all of the urgent things. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things for your time, attention, demands on your life, your responsibilities. A lot of times they come up as urgent. Well, if you're looking about your priorities, then you got to also think about, hey, what's most important? You can kind of think about, is this urgent or is this important? When you're thinking about identifying these priorities, think about what is truly important to you and your life, your values. And when you're going about this, taking those priorities and doing them and applying them to your day, is I like having what I call a big 3. And it's like the 3 most important tasks of the day. And then you can apply this to week, months, quarters, years, and everything. Hey, what's the 3 most important things for my values and my life? And I want you to be saying this, for you to accomplish in a day. So there's going to be a ton of things that are going to pop up. There's going to be the urgent things that are going to pop up. But in order to be able to say no to those urgent things, because sometimes you just got to, and we'll talk about that in a different episode. But to say no to those urgent things, you have to have those most important things that are in front of you. So now once you have your priorities down and you kind of know, hey, these are the most important things for me for today, this week, this month, this year, that it resonates with my values and my goals, what I want from my life. And once you have that, then you got to talk about some of the different tools, tips, tricks, techniques, whatever you want to call it, for how you can really stay on track with these priorities. I'm going to go through a few just suggestions here. As with pretty much everything that I share, take what works for you, leave the rest. And in future episodes, we'll get a lot more into doing a deep dive into some of these, but I'm not going to go real deep on a lot of them. When we talk about it, they'll stand out to you. You'll say, hey, that might be a good fit for me, or no, I've tried that, I don't like it. Just try to keep an open mind as we roll through them. So one of them is time blocking. Now this is huge. It's scheduling kind of specific times for different priority tasks for your day. I love using a little stopwatch on my or a little stopwatch on my watch, and that's going to be giving myself a little bit of a timer to knock out a few things, to focus on something. And if I block that time to whatever degree possible, even when I'm interrupted, I can say, hey, I just got 5 more minutes. I'm working on this right here, and it helps me to stay on track with those priorities because I have a time that I've allotted to it. And especially when I have that little countdown timer on my watch, it makes it easier for me to stay on track, even if there are no people interrupting me. But a lot of times there is, and then I just show my watch, say, hey, actually I got a few more minutes that I got to work on this, and it helps me to kind of protect that time to focus on that priority. The daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly reviews. This is another way to really help you to stay on track with your priorities. The more often you do it, the easier it is to make those little course corrections along the way. If all you're doing is looking at your goals once a year, then so much time has passed that if you got off track, I'm not bashing or saying don't do an annual review looking back, but come on, like if you're doing it on a weekly or daily basis, just a short little check-in, that can tell you can evaluate where you're at and make those adjustments a whole lot sooner than waiting to even the end of the quarter or the end of the year. So really consider checking in on a regular basis to see where you're at with your priorities and how what you're doing on a daily basis and weekly basis is either helping you to get closer to living according to those priorities and addressing them or further away. What can also be helpful is using a little priorities list, like having a list of your priorities, even using a task management app. I use some apps. I think that some of them are helpful. Problem is that there's a million of them out there these days, and sometimes too many tools really gets away from just developing the habit of doing what you need to do. So if it helps you to have a list written down, great. I just have a note card. I keep my priorities written down on a note card and I keep it in my pocket. That's my that's better than any app that I've used. Because when I reach in my pocket, then, hey, that note card's there, and it reminds me, oh, hey, I need to stay on track with my priorities. And I even read it in the morning, and then that also helps me to keep that in front of my mind while I'm going throughout the day. I still remember the priorities that I'm having because it's with me at all times. And it's not lost in my phone like an app along the other 100 and something apps I probably have on my phone. All right, if you want to stay on track with your priorities, you got to learn to say no. You can't, if you say yes to something, boom, you've automatically said no to other things. So when you say yes and when you say no, make sure it's aligned with your values and your priorities. And it's one of the best ways, in my opinion, to do that is to really practice and learn how to say no to things that aren't aligned with what's most important to you. Again, this one we'll dive into more in an upcoming episode. Along with saying no is setting those clear boundaries to protect your time. This might be related to the first suggestion of time blocking. It's definitely related to saying no, because in order to have a boundary, you have to be able to say no to the things that are outside that boundary or what you want outside that boundary. But setting clear boundaries to protect your time, your energy, your attention. Got to be able to set those boundaries. Otherwise, you will get sidetracked. You will get pulled off track from what you want without those boundaries. In another way, just another little tool, when you have these priorities, that are really important to you, it can be helpful to break them down into smaller components. Just like a goal, with your priorities, Break them down into the manageable things that you can do to live according to those priorities and those values that you have. All right. So after listening to this, just right off the bat, I want you to answer this. What are your top 3 priorities right now? Think about it. What are your top 3 priorities right now? Now, what steps will you take to focus on them? I encourage you to even to write this down. Think about it, because it's something that you can do today, right now, is thinking about your main priorities. Your main priorities. Even think about, hey, what are some of the most important things for you this week? Now, what steps will you take to focus on those priorities that you have? See, staying on track, it takes effort, it takes discipline. And at the same time, look, we're all people, we're human, no one's perfect. So staying on track is important. It is valuable. It's how you're going to be able to claim your day. It's how you're going to be able to live your best life, according to your values and make an impact. You got to stay on track. And at the same time, give yourself a little bit of grace, because we're all people and we all get knocked off track. But one thing that can help you to stay on track is to clearly identify your priorities. Figure out the ways that work best for you to stay on track with your priorities. And then definitely make sure you're checking in with yourself, and you're not only checking on your progress towards your priorities, but you're thinking about what your current priorities are. See, values are kind of one of those things that probably aren't going to change. There's that higher level. And then a step down would be, hey, your priorities, what's most important to you. So sometimes that does change depending upon your season of life, where you're focusing your efforts. So review not only your progress, but review your priorities regularly and adjust all of it accordingly as it's needed. See, you do have the power to prioritize what's most important to you so that you can achieve your goals, live your best life, and make it the best that it can be. You do have that power. It will take effort. It will take time. It will take energy. It's not going to go perfect, but you can do it, my friend, and it'll be worth it. Just remember, if all this, it sounds like a lot of work and it ends up being challenging, just remember the wise words of John Maxwell, and that everything worthwhile is uphill all the way. And the only thing I add to that is that it's also worth it. It's going to be uphill, but it's worth the effort that you put in. So prioritize what matters most to you. Use some tools and techniques to help maintain that focus. Prevent getting off track and derailment as much as you can. And then when you do get sidetracked, just get right back on it. Check in with yourself. Make some adjustments so that you can keep moving forward. I want you to make significant progress towards your goals by staying on track with what's most important to you. And really, when you do this, even through the bumps and the challenges, it's going to help you to feel more in control of your time and your energy, because of the steps that you're taking to prioritize what's most important to you, so that you can prioritize your actions to follow in line with what's most important to you. All right. I want you to achieve your goals, live intentionally, and just to live your best life. Here's to you, my friend. Can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. Take care.